In this video, we're going to take a look at even more selectors that we can use. jQuery has tons of selectors to make it easy for us to get exactly what we need off of a page. And this list can appear daunting at first. Here are some of the most useful jQuery selectors. And if you look, there is a ton of them. Attributes, empty, EQ, even, first child, has, header, hidden, last child, just odd, only child, parents, text, visible. There's just a ton of them. You're not expected to memorize them all. Probably the best thing you can do is familiarize yourself with a bunch of them and know that if you need to know how to do something, you can go look it up. Okay, this isn't something that has to be memorized. As you get more and more experience programming JavaScript or using jQuery with JavaScript, you'll learn what these are as you need them, and you'll find the ones that you need. But we're going to talk about some of them. So let's look. Notice a lot of these have colons. So they're a colon, meaning they're used with something else. So let's take a look. So here is a list item, colon, first child. What does that do? Gets the list item elements that are the first child of their parent. So this basically gets the first list item out of an unordered list or an ordered list or some kind of list that has a list item. It gets the first one. So colon first child grabs the first one of that type. Here's one that uses a table. So it takes, here's the parent table, and then we have the greater sign saying table row. We want to get all the even numbered table rows, and those table numbers start at 0. So 0 is considered even. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. It'll get the even rows out of a table. Well, what would we use that for? Maybe we want to alternately color or stripe our table. So we can actually get all the even rows and maybe apply a different color formatting to those. That would be something very nice to make it easier to read a table, especially if it has a lot of rows in it. Select the third descendant paragraph element of an element. So go to the FAQs, find the paragraph that's equal to 2. Remember, this would be the third element because they start numbered. So the first paragraph would be P0, and then P1, and then P2. So we're looking for the third paragraph of the FAQ section. Here's one. Select all input elements that has text as the type attribute. So every element on this page, because we don't specify an element type, anything that has a text attribute, we're pulling out with that. All right, now let's take a look at some other jQuery methods that we could use. Most useful jQuery methods. Again, you may not know how to use all these immediately. You'll find the ones you need when you need to use them. We will look at examples of some of them. So we got next, previous, find, attribute. That's a pretty good one. CSS properties. We can pull out CSS properties. We can set CSS properties. We can add classes and remove classes and toggle classes. We've seen that similarly just using JavaScript before. We're just going to do it with jQuery now. So let's take a look at some of these methods. And if you need to find a specific one, you can always come back and look it up. So ATTR, attribute. Get the value of the attribute called source from this image. So we have an image with an ID of image, and we're pulling out its source attribute. What is the source set to? What is that file name? Set the value of the source attribute. So we can use image.attribute, and we can set its source to be some file that we have put in this variable or constant called image source. Okay. So this one pulls out the source, tells us what the source is. It's the getter for the source of an image, and this is the setter for the source of an image. We just did that a chapter or two before this using regular JavaScript. This is a little bit shorter and easy to use. It does it all in one step. If you remember, we had a few steps when we were doing that before. Set the value of the color property of the H2 element. So find all the H2 elements and apply the CSS property color and make it blue. Okay, so .css lets us set a CSS property on an element or multiple elements. In this case, all the H2s will get the color blue. Here we're going to add a class to the H2 descendants of the FAQs element. So find all the H2s that are inside the FAQ section. It's marked with an ID of FAQs. And we're going to add the class minus to all of them. So we can add a class that way. Look for an aside element. Aside elements are usually some kind of bar on the right side or left side of a page. Look for the one that's, look for the aside element and set its HTML to contain H2 table of contents. So we're altering the contents of the HTML of that semantic element aside. And in this case, we're going to run a function for all of the anchor tags that are in our image list. We did something very similar to set functions. When people clicked, it would automatically call up the picture in a bigger box, right? So we've seen similar to this. So get all the anchor tags for the image list, and for each one, so the .each method says for each one, run a function. Okay. And the function in this, we didn't actually specify what the function was going to do in this one, but that's how we could do it. So we can run a function for every element that's pulled out of here using the .each method. And then let's take a look at some event methods. We have a ready method, a click method, double click methods, mouse enters, mouse overs, mouse outs, and hovers. We have a lot of them. jQuery event methods. How do we check for these methods or these events when they happen? We also have an event object that has a current target and a prevent default, which we've seen before. So we'll take a look at those as well. So let's look at some examples here. Here's a double click event method for all text boxes. So find any element that has text, set a double click method, and when the event happens, whichever item was clicked on will be stored in this EBT variable for this function, and we will set the current target, whatever that event.current target is. So if this was the second text box, it will set the current target value of that text box to blank. So basically, somebody double clicks on the text box, it resets the value of the text box so they can type a new value in there. So rather than having to click in the text box and do the backspace key or select all the text and hit delete, they can just double click on the box and it'll set its value back to null, back to nothing. Here's one, a hover event method for each image element within a list. So find all the image elements that are inside this image list. When somebody hovers over it, run this code. In this case, it's going to say the mouse pointer has moved into the image element. Okay. And then we also have one when the mouse pointer moves out of the image element. We can alert that as well. So the first function is what happens when somebody moves into the element or hovers over the image. When their mouse leaves the image, the second function is what runs. They're separated by a comma right here. A prevent default, we've done prevent default before. So when somebody clicks on an anchor tag, which is a hyperlink, right, within the FAQ section, we can call event.prevent default. That's going to stop the link from actually happening. So they can click on the link and it won't go anywhere. Usually we'd have some other code maybe that was running before that, and then we want to prevent the link from actually taking them somewhere. In this case, We're just disabling the link. Some other methods you should be aware of. The on method, the off method. So on attaches an event handler to one or more events. Off takes the event handler off one or more events. One attaches an event handler and removes it. After it runs once, it never runs again. And then we can set a trigger an event for a selected element. So we could manually trigger an event to happen with code, even if the event didn't actually happen from the user. So here's some examples using those. How to attach an event handler to an event with the on event method. So I find whatever element has the ID of clear. I do a dot on. So when they click on the thing with the ID clear, it's going to run whatever code I put in this anonymous function right here. So click, comma, and we can name a function, or in this case, they're using an anonymous function. We can write the code right inside of it. And then here's the shortcut method, clear.click. So we're leaving, so we can do clear.click, and we don't even have to use the word on. And the same thing can happen. We can specify a function, or we can write an anonymous function in here. How to attach an event handler to two different events. If it's on the same element, get all the images in the image list, on click or on mouse over. So we just separate them with a space. If they click on the image, or if they mouse over the image, we're going to run whatever function we put here. Or two different ones. We have a clear click function we're creating here. If they click on the clear stuff, we're going to run click for clear click. And if they click on the text with a double click, we're also going to clear it out. And we're going to look at some applications coming up that you get to see a lot of these actually get used. So if it's overwhelming seeing all these, the book can help. Read the book slowly, rewatch it. But I promise you we will see some examples of many of these in the upcoming applications we're going to look at. Removing an event handler from event. Let's remove the click event from whatever has the ID of clear on our page. We're going to run .off click, and we're removing the click event from that particular item on our page. And here, whatever item has the ID of clear, we're doing .1, which makes a click event for that particular item, but this click event will only run the first time they click it, and then it will never run again. How to trigger an event with the trigger method. We can call .trigger click, which will automatically make whatever click event was set for the clear event, it will automatically run it. So rather than write the function again in here, if we had an anonymous function when somebody clicked on it, we don't have to write the function again. We can just trigger the click event that was already written. And then we can clear that out as well. How to trigger an event from an event handler. So if somebody double clicks, so this comes in really handy. If anybody double clicks on a text box, double click on anything that has text in it, we're going to run the click method for the thing that has clear. So what does this do? Rather than writing the click method twice, we can just say, hey, if they double click on it, do the same thing you would do if they just single clicked on it. That can be really handy because sometimes users double click when we really want them to single click. So this takes, if they double click, it will automatically just run the single click function that we had written. All right, I think in the next videos, we're going to take a look at a lot of the examples we just saw actually used in applications.